Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler Season 1, Episode 26. Boom! A loud sound suddenly resounded out among the tree shades. A storm-like spiritual energy impact spread out and shattered the numerous leaves on the ground. The large trees also vibrated intensely, and leaves appeared in the sky. As the leaves were falling down from the sky, the two figures that collided with each other trembled fiercely. Then, their bodies staggered backwards. Mu Chen's feet grazed the ground and he staggered backwards a dozen steps. He took a fierce stomp and stabilized his stature. At this moment, his palms were still trembling slightly. The overly powerful impact caused his palms to ache. Although his hands hurt, he still forcibly received Liu Mubai's fierce offensive. It was evident that the might of the two limitless death seals was finally revealed. Ever since he formed the two limitless death seals, Mu Chen was never able to truly unleash it completely. This is because the two opponents that he faced, Shui Tu and Ji Zong, far surpassed him in strength. With this difference in power, it was impossible to make up for it, even if he activated the two limitless death seals. Therefore, Mu Chen never knew how powerful the two limitless death seals were. But right now, he finally knew. Although Liu Mubai had advanced into the spiritual rotation stage, he was probably still in the initial phase. This had surpassed Mu Chen, but the gap wasn't impossible for him to make up for, unlike with Shui Tu and Ji Zong. Thus, in this level of battle, the might of the two limitless death seals were finally displayed completely. Compared to Mu Chen's expression, Liu Mubai had a somewhat ashen face. His eyes remained fixed at Mu Chen. It was apparent that he did not understand how his opponent was able to fight against him like this, by relying on the strength of a spiritual movement stage late phase. Although he still had some moves that he hasn't displayed yet, he was still in the spiritual rotation stage. This strength surpassed Mu Chen who knows how many times. But even with that, he was still not able to obtain the upper hand. How could he accept this? Was your prediction regarding me off? You originally thought that I am someone that you can just step on, but now it seems that it's different than what you expected. Mu Chen stared at Liu Mubai's ashen expression and said with a smile. The veins on Liu Mubai's forehead twitched. He immediately sucked in a deep breath and suppressed the rage within his heart. His eyes gradually turned abnormally dark, and chill was felt within his voice. You really surpassed my expectations, but do you think that you have the right to act arrogant because of this? When the final words filled with chill exited Liu Mubai's mouth, the fiery red spiritual energy surged out again from within his body. His eyes were filled with a rich, murderous intent. It was clear that Liu Mubai had finally revealed a true killing intent towards Mu Chen. No matter what he had to do, he decided that he must wipe out this loathsome fellow. Seeing this, Mu Chen's eyes narrowed. The corners of his lips slowly rise up and formed a cold smile. Although it would be a bit troublesome to deal with Liu Mubai right now, Mu Chen would not let him get any benefits if this guy continues to pester him. Under the tree shades, the two of them confronted each other with razor-cold eyes. The leaves drifted down between the two of them endlessly as the atmosphere became tenser. Kacha. However, just when the two of them had tensed their body up like a fully arched bow, a faint sound rang out from the forest behind. This strange sound caused the tense atmosphere to stiffen. The sound was getting closer and closer. Then, a dozen or so individuals suddenly came out from the forest and were behind Liu Mubai. Little master, we finally found you! Seeing the figures rushing over, Mu Chen frowned for a bit. This is because they were all Liu territory's men. Seeing this, Liu Mubai secretly let out a sigh of relief. He immediately sneered at Mu Chen and said, "It seems that you've used up all your luck." That might not be true. Hearing this, Mu Chen smiled and his eyes glanced behind him. A few familiar figures rapidly appeared from there. From their statures, it was Duan Wei and the others. It was clear that Duan Wei and the others were aware of the early commotion. Thus, they hurried over. Moreover, their expressions changed when they saw Liu Mubai's group. They instantly protected Mu Chen and stared vigilantly and unkindly at the other group. Mu Chen shook his head and relaxed his tense body. Since both sides' men had rushed over, there was no way of fighting again. Otherwise, the degree of the fight would probably attract a few of Black Eerie Swamp's spiritual beasts over. At that time, both sides would be troubled. Lu Mubai also seemed to have thought about this point and gritted his teeth as if he was unwilling. He stared at Mu Chen again and said, "It seems that you've survived again. It's useless if you only say it. You should say these words to me when you manage to completely step on me," Mu Chen said with a calm expression. "There will be a chance when that happens. I really want to see if you will still have such an annoying expression at that time." Lu Mubai took a deep glance at Mu Chen before waving his hand. He did not say anything more and brought the Lu territory's men back into the forest. Duan Wei and the others were relieved when they saw Lu Mubai's group leave. Then he looked at Mu Chen and asked, "Little Lord, are you all right?" Mu Chen smiled and shook his head. His black eyes still had a hint of coldness as he stared at Lu Mubai's departing figure. Only after a while did he rush out in the other direction. "We should go as well. Let's hurry and reunite with my dad." This is an extremely vast black swamp, and a black deathly miasma was above it. The deathly miasma at this place was exceptionally strong. If anyone dares to charge into it, they would not be able to last for long, even if they were at the spiritual rotation stage strength. In the black swamp, a faint poisonous gas emerges whenever the bubbles explode. From time to time, black mud would roll down. Under the black mud, scarlet and vicious eyes would emerge and slowly sweep around the surroundings. At this edge of the swamp, a group of men were a bit worried. The one leading them was Mu Feng. At this moment, he was frowning as he stared at the endless black swamp. "Territory Lord, the black poison marsh is too dangerous to pass. It is impossible for us to pass through the deathly miasma in the skies above. If we were to cross the swamp, not many of us would be able to survive from the black poison crocodile's attacks." A Mu territory city lord said with a wry smile beside Mu Feng, "Can we enter the depths of the black eerie swamp from another location?" Zhou Ye frowned and asked. "There is a way, but we would have to go around for quite the distance. If we waste this much time, we would probably be far behind the Lu territory," a man replied. "Those guys, they really came fully prepared." Zhou Ye gritted his teeth. It was apparent that the Lu territory had investigated everything carefully. They might have sent a few men to investigate it before. Since they did not head down this way, they must have found another passageway to the depths of the black eerie swamp. Mu Feng secretly sighed. Then he asked, "Is there any news from Little Mu and the others?" "Not yet. Should I bring some men to search?" Zhou Ye asked. Mu Feng thought for a moment. But just when he was about to speak, his expression changed and he said with a smile, "No need. I've said it before. You should not underestimate that boy." As he said this, he turned around and looked at the forest behind them. He saw the bushes shake and a dozen figures quickly dashed over. The one leading was a handsome boy. It was Mu Chen. "Dad!" Mu Chen stared at the men around the edge of the swamp and immediately smiled. He had finally caught up. "Are you all right?" Mu Feng smiled at Mu Chen and asked. Mu Chen shook his head and walked forward. He scanned the vast swamp and jokingly said, "Dad, it seems that you found trouble." It was evident that Mu Chen also noticed the crisis that Mu Feng and the others were currently facing. Mu Feng could only shake his head sourly and let out a helpless sigh. He and Zhou Ye could rely on their spirit stage strength and forcibly leap over the swamp. However, it was impossible for the other men. If we continue to drag this out, the Nine Netherworld Bird would probably be captured by the Liu territory, Zhou Ye also said with a bitter smile. "Uncle Zhou, relax. The Nine Netherworld Bird probably isn't that easy to obtain either." Mu Chen shook his head. Although he had never seen that Nine Netherworld Bird before, he knew that the Nine Netherworld Bird wasn't that simple to obtain through the information left behind by the skeleton. Moreover, it isn't impossible for us to pass through the black poison marsh safely. Mu Chen's gaze swept through the poisonous swamp in front of him and suddenly said with a smile, "Oh?" Hearing these words, Mu Feng, Zhou Ye, and the others were surprised. Their eyes brightened up as they stared at Mu Chen. At this moment, the boy was leisurely patting his hands and was at ease. "You have a plan?" Mu Chen nodded his head when he saw the eager expressions. In the spiritual road, there were many places even more dangerous than this black poison marsh. When they saw the smiling boy in front of them, Mu Feng and the others exchanged looks. A hint of joy and uncertainty appeared within their eyes. Even with their experiences, they were not able to deal with this. However, this boy could resolve it? Then let's hear you explain it. If you say any nonsense, I won't forgive you. Mu Feng smiled and asked, Mu Chen stared at the vast black poison marsh and said, "Even birds will find it difficult to cross the black poison marsh once they step in, as it will be difficult for them to escape. It is impossible for one to leap through the sky filled with deathly miasma. However, if we were to have a floating object at the landing point, we would be able to progress forward. But soon after that, the numerous black poison crocodile within the black poison marsh would drag us down and rip us into shreds. We all know about this," Mu Feng chided. "Actually, it's not that difficult to pass through. In the black poison marsh, what is able to freely pass through it?" Mu Chen asked with a smile. "Freely pass through?" Mu Feng was slightly stunned and thought for a moment before saying, "The black poison crocodile? Yes, as long as we capture a few of the black poison crocodile and use its crocodile skin as a boat, we will be able to pass through the black poison marsh without being obstructed. Moreover, the smell emitting from the black poison crocodile's skin will help us avoid attacks from the other black poison crocodiles," Mu Chen said. "It's that simple?" Mu Feng and the others frowned. This method wasn't too difficult to execute, but would it be able to pass through the black poison marsh just with this? Although the black poison crocodile's skin would have some effect, it would not completely allow them to be safe. "Oh ho ho, there is indeed another step," Mu Chen smiled and replied. "The black poison crocodile wasn't highly intelligent, but it wouldn't be easy to muddle past them. As for the final step, we should get the earlier steps completed first. Dad, Uncle Joe, we'll leave the matter of killing the black poison crocodiles up to you two." When everybody heard this, they all looked at each other. They weren't sure what Mu Chen wanted to do. "Boy, you better not be messing around," Mu Feng gritted his teeth. As of now, they really didn't have any ideas. Moreover, they could not afford delaying the time. Otherwise, they would be thrown far behind the Liu territory. "Joe, yeah, we will attack. The others should prepare making boats." Mu Feng waved his hand and made an order. "Yes." Although others were suspicious of the method that Mu Chen was talking about, they still immediately responded due to Mu Feng making it an order. They instantly spread out and began hacking at trees. Mu Feng and Zhou Ye glanced at each other. A dense spiritual energy suddenly erupted out from within their bodies. Mu Feng's body moved and appeared in the skies above the black poison marsh. A fiery red spiritual energy swept out from behind him and directly formed into a flame bird. The flame bird's body was filled with fiery red scales and had wings like a dragon. It seemed to be filled with power, and an enormous spiritual energy pressure emitted out. Furthermore, it caused the black poison marsh below to tremble, and numerous black poison crocodiles appeared out as the swamp shook. They stared in alert at the flame bird in the sky. "Roar!" Zhou Ye was also suspended in the sky, and a mountain-like brown rhinoceros emerged behind him. This heavy weight seemed to cause even the air to vibrate. The spirit stage powerhouses, who ingested a spiritual beast's soul essence, will all possess some of the distinct characteristics and strength that the spiritual beast had when it was alive. For example, Mu Feng's dragonfire bird granted Mu Feng speed, while Zhou Ye's mountain spirit rhinoceros granted him pure strength. Mu Chen stared at the majestic spiritual beast behind Mu Feng and Zhou Ye. A burning passion could not help but pour out from his eyes. It seemed that the spirit stage was so powerful that they far surpassed the spiritual rotation stage. Zhou Ye's hand clenched into a fist, and with a cry, a punch was blasted out. A deep yellow spiritual energy that seemed to be mixed with the power of being heavy like a mountain roared out like a pillar of light and bombarded into the swamp. Boom! The earth seemed to have trembled at this moment. A deep crater was directly formed from the punch in the swamp. This enormous spiritual energy caused dozens of black poison crocodiles to fly out into the sky due to the tremor. Mu Feng also acted at this moment. The dragonfire bird behind his back let out a long roar at the sky. A violent and dense light of flame erupted out and directly wrapped around the dozens of black poison crocodile. As the spiritual energy wriggled around, the dozens of black poison crocodile that had the strength of a spiritual rotation stage strength instantly died. Then, Mu Feng waved his hand and threw them at the edge of the marsh. When Mu Feng and Zhou Ye attacked, a couple of men suddenly stopped at a certain cliff path that was slightly away from the black poison marsh. It was the Liu territory's men that Mu Feng and the others met earlier. This spiritual energy fluctuation. Liu Zong's footsteps suddenly paused, and he stared at the distance. It's Mu Feng and Zhou Ye. It seems that they met some sort of trouble. They should be trapped at the Black Poison Marsh. Oh ho ho. With Mu Feng and Zhou Yi's strength, they could forcibly pass over. However, they will consume a large amount of strength. As for the others, they do not have the ability to pass through. Lu Qingtian, who was in front, said, if that's the case, they would basically be injured individuals when they reach the deepest part of the Black Eerie Swamp. Would they even have the courage to fight with us then? Big Brother sure is thoughtful. If we have the chance at that time, we should not let them escape. Once the Mu territory does not have Mu Feng and Zhou Ye, won't that territory be easily and freely obtained by us? The Liu territory? Liu Ming said with a sneer. Liu Qingtian gave a faint smile and nodded. A tiny bit of killing intent surged through his eyes. If they have the opportunity, he naturally would not let it go. Right now, they only have to wait for the Mu territory's mentally tired and injured individuals at the deepest part of the Black Eerie Swamp. Mu Feng, you could have enjoyed a happy life in the Mu territory, yet you do not want that. You just had to come and try to fight against my Lu territory for the Nine Netherworld Bird. Then don't blame me. Boom. The earth trembled as Mu Chen stared at Mu Feng tossing over a dozen of black poison crocodiles. He could not help but smack his lips. Every single black poison crocodile had the strength of a spiritual rotation stage initial phase. However, they were completely powerless against his dad and Uncle Joe. Mu Chen let out a sigh of praise. Then he called a couple of the experts to peel off the crocodile skin from the black poison crocodile. At the same time, a simple boat was already finished at the side. Mu Chen allowed them to wrap the crocodile skin around the tiny boats. If they were to throw the tiny boat into the black poison marsh, it would probably sink immediately. However, the black poison crocodile's skin had a bit of spiritual energy fluctuation in it when they were still alive. It was just enough to let the boat float on the swamp. After everybody had finished doing this, eyes began to stare at Mu Chen again. Would this method really allow them to pass through the black poison marsh? It's your turn now. Mu Feng looked at Mu Chen with a serious expression and said, don't fool around. If trouble appears after we enter the black poison marsh, there won't be many that will be alive. Dad, relax. Mu Chen smiled instead and pointed at the swamp. Our primary problem is to avoid the attacks from these black poison crocodiles. The black poison crocodiles are middle-rank spiritual beasts, but because they lived in the swamp for so long, their sensing abilities are extremely weak. Moreover, they do not have sharp eyes as well. As long as we are able to disrupt their vision, we would be able to mix in and pass over with the aura from these crocodiles' skin. How would we disrupt their visions? Mu Feng inquired with a frown. That's all thanks to Dad allowing me to learn about spiritual arrays over this period of time. Mu Chen smiled and gripped his palms. 8 spiritual seals soon emerged at his fingertips. You are already able to arrange a spiritual array? Seeing the spiritual seals at Mu Chen's fingertips, Mu Feng and Zhou Ye were shocked. The other Mu territory's men were also surprised as they stared at Mu Chen. It's only a tiny spiritual array, Mu Chen said with a smile. I will be arranging a tiny spiritual array known as the Soul Confusion Array. It will be able to cause a slight confusion. Although it will not have much effect, it is perfect to use to deal with the black poison crocodiles with low sensing abilities. Mu Feng and Zhou Ye exchanged glances at each other. They never imagined that Mu Chen's understanding about spiritual beasts surpassed even veterans like them. After saying this, Mu Chen ignored them, and his face turned serious. He flicked his fingertips, and the 8 spiritual seals vanished at the surroundings of the small boat. Then everybody was able to faintly feel the air vibrating slightly and emitted out a strange fluctuation. Mu Chen's hand seals changed and finally let out a sigh of relief after a while. He wiped off the sweat from his forehead and said, "It's done." Everybody hurriedly glanced over. They really saw that a faint mist emerged on the boat and enshrouded the majority of it away. This cover would be broken immediately if a human were to see it. Fortunately, the black poison crocodiles did not possess such high intelligence. There's really more to the little lord than what meets the eye. Duan Wei and the others could not help but let out a cry of admiration. They had always treated Mu Chen as a child before. However, now they discovered that this boy wasn't that simple. Although they weren't sure whether or not this method would work this smoothly, they still had a little bit of confidence after seeing this. Why are you praising him so early? It's only good if it works. Otherwise, we would have wasted all this effort and harmed others instead. Although Mu Feng had traces of satisfaction appearing on his face, he did not let out any praises. This was done so that the boy wouldn't be too proud of himself. Whether it is mule or a horse, you'll know soon. A Chinese idiom where it means you'll only know their abilities only after you test them out. Mu Chen pouted his mouth. He directly pushed the tiny boat into the black poison marsh and was the first to jump onto it. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.